rolling through our week, we've talked about, right? Embracing humility through either silence or as we move into conversation and we start to share our story, right? Starting with the facts, telling our story, asking others for another story, and learning to mirror to confirm, right? We're trying to use contrast and language that is similar so that we can try to make sure, triangulate where we are and where somebody else is. Because the goal, as we continue to move forward through this conversation, as Jeff has shared, is we're trying to do everything we can to make this conversation safe. So then, as we move into the next stage of AMPP, as a part of the asking somebody for their story, we ask them for their story, we move to confirm, or mirror to confirm. The next P in the AMP is to paraphrase to ensure understanding. But again, this is one of those things where we want to make sure that we are communicating well without doing things like pressing too hard, while still ensuring that we are trying to pursue understanding together. And what I mean by that is this: as we have the conversation and somebody might say something that is a part of their story, and we have mirrored them so that we can get those emotions out better, our goal is to paraphrase what they've said using some of our own language to ensure that we're on the same page. But this is a very tricky part, because as we paraphrase, we're not trying to judge them. We're not trying to state any kind of moral equivalency to anything. We're just trying to make sure we get where they are. And so it can sound something to the effect of, well, it sounds like you might be pretty upset with me because of my judgment of your clothes, thinking that I might be too old-fashioned or stingy. Is that fair? Right? Notice how I'm not in that trying to force are you right or wrong? I'm just trying to understand, is this what you think is happening when I'm talking about your clothes? Right? And we can use other examples, but in this instance, right, as we're talking about paraphrasing to ensure understanding, we are trying to navigate this well to make sure that as we are having the conversation, we aren't missing the point. Because it's so easy to hear one thing that somebody has said and fixate on it and miss the heart behind all that is going on. It's so easy to focus in on just a little bit of body language that can be confronting to us, that we then move past it and jump ahead to again, being in the fight or flight spectrum ourselves. And so we want to continue to back up, make it safe, make sure we're paraphrasing well so that we are honoring their attempt to tell their story. But we're also not trying to push too hard. And we'll be able to feel it a little bit, because somebody will start to not feel that safety anymore and push further and further back into that fight or flight mode. So we want to gather that back in, right? Pull that back in and say, no, so I'm sorry. I feel like I might be putting words in your mouth. Let's make sure I'm getting you before we move on. I want to make sure that you feel that you're heard before we talk about anything else. Make it safe. This is where that really becomes necessary. But then there's times where, as somebody is trying to tell their story, or as you're trying to encourage someone to tell their story, they just really are not ready to talk. Now, this can be for many different reasons. Maybe it's because they don't know how to convey their emotions in that moment. Maybe there's a larger thing at play that would be kind of scary to share, depending on how in-depth your relationship is with them. If it's somewhat of a new relationship and we've pushed a button that we didn't know was there based off of a trauma or a big event in their life, well, then they may not want to share that trauma with us yet because we're new to them. And yet we still need to learn to navigate the story well. And so that's where, when asking for their story, learning to mirror, and paraphrasing to understand doesn't work, we want to remember the last P of AMP, and that's to prime, to try to encourage a story. And priming is something where we are just trying to feed some potential responses to them that they can use that to say, well, no, I don't think this is what I'm trying to convey, but maybe this is. And so in the instance of using my example about somebody who might be upset with my judgment of their dress, if I haven't been able to get anything out of them, I might convey to them, is there a reason why you're upset? And if so, may that reason be because you feel like I've judged you too harshly for what you wear? And we can apply this then to any context. Is there something about what I've done that is upsetting to you? And I can guess, I can say, have I conveyed something harshly that you took as negative? Have you felt my criticism of you has been too harsh? Is there anything that I've done that has been insulting for you? And if so, I would love to know, right? We're trying to prime the pump to try to see if any of those emotions are more easily expressed for the individual. And if so, right, that's where we then move back into the beginning of our principles of, okay, we're priming, we're trying to give examples humbly and with love and care to see if there's anything then that comes out so that we can then move back into mirroring. Oh, hey, okay, so this is what I hear you saying is this right? Or are you still upset with me? Okay, sweet. You have expressed this desire to make sure I am not as judgmental of you. Is that fair to say, right? That's how we move into paraphrasing. Each one of these steps then allows us to better navigate each opportunity after we've primed and somebody is starting to respond. But we got to make sure that it's safe. We got to make sure that our communication is effective and loving and done with humility, because without the opportunity to have these conversations well, we might forever be isolated. And again, that's never our goal.